When we multiply fractions, we want to multiply first the numerator and then the denominator. So the numerators are all on the top. So we want to, when we just multiply straight across, we multiply the numerators times the numerator, and we get an answer, and we multiply the denominator times the denominator, and we get an answer. So let's make this a little smaller and just keep it up here so we can reference it. But what I also want to do is put these together. So I want to make one fraction. I want to write the problem as a single fraction. So to write it as a single fraction, I would suggest that you do this all the time when you're doing multiplication or working with fractions. So you make them as one fraction. So 1 times 3 as the numerators, and 3 times 5 the denominators. And so I would keep this type of thing all the time. So the first step is I'm going to multiply. Okay, so I'm going to multiply my numerator. So 1 times 3 is 3. And then I'm going to multiply my denominators. 3 times 5 is 15. So I've gotten here to go 3 15ths. And then I want to look at and see if I can simplify. So my next step is going to be simplify. Okay. Are there any common factors in the numerator and denominator? That's what I'm asking. If there aren't any common factors besides 1 in the numerator and denominator, then I'm done. I'm simplified already. But in this case, I think there is. I can see a 3 on the top and a 15 on the bottom, and I know that 15 goes into 3 as well. So if I take the 3 15ths, I can divide the top by 3, and I can divide the bottom by 3. And I will end up with 1/5. Does that make sense? All right, in our previous example, it was smaller fractions, and you can always simplify after you multiply. That's not a problem. You just have to find common factors to reduce your fraction to the simplest form. But sometimes you want to, the calculations are a lot harder, or the fractions are a lot larger, and so you're calculating really big numbers. And so to help with that, there's a shortcut that you can simplify first and then calculate. So if you can find common factors between the two fractions that you're looking at, you can simplify them first and then multiply, and it will just save you a lot of time and calculating. Let's watch what we do. Let's see if I can do it. Oh, first, I also want you to always make one fraction from the two fractions. So I want you to set up just like this every time. Okay, so you're setting your multiplication of fractions just like this every time. So here I'm going to do 6 times 2 and 7 times 3. Okay, so that's how I want you to set it up all the time. Okay, and then you're looking for common factors right now. We want to simplify right now. So I'm going to simplify. This is my step over here, is to simplify right now. Can I see any common factors between these two? So if I'm looking across like this, do I see any common factors between those two or these two? I can simplify them right now. So you're sort of looking as an X across them, and you're saying, can I simplify them? Well, I can simplify one. I can see that there's a 3 and a 6. I know there's 3 goes into 6, so 3 goes, if there's 1 3, and there's 2 3s and a 6, so I can put a 2 up here. So instead of multiplying 6 times 2, I can go 2 times 2, which is a little easier. Okay? So when I go down to the next step, I'm going to go 2 times, if we could rewrite it if you want, 2 times 2. Maybe rewriting is a great idea so that it doesn't get too confusing. So now I've simplified, okay, and I don't see any other common factors, so now I can multiply. So now I can multiply. Okay, so 2 times 2 is 4, and 7 times 1 is 7. So that was a lot easier than going 6 times 2 is 12, and 3 times 7 is 21. You could have had 21 twelfths. Okay, but that's a lot harder to calculate than when you simplify earlier. So now it's your turn. So if this is a video that you're watching, I want you to pause it and calculate what is the product of the multiplication of these two fractions. If it's not a video and you're using the Explain Everything app, I want you to solve it right here. But everyone is going to start with making one fraction from the two fractions, just like this. So I want you to start from there. Go. So here we have a word problem that we need to solve. But before we do that, I want to make the point that there's a class of 18 students. So if you have the number 18, I want to make a point that any integer, negative number or whole number, or whole or its opposite, can be made a fraction. And the fraction would be like 18 over 1, where you're looking for the 1 unit. How many 1 units are in 18? 18 of them are. So any regular number, integer, you can make into a fraction, or it could be a negative fraction. Okay, so let's start this again. So erase that. So a class of 18 students, and I'm going to make it 18 over 1 because I know I'm going to do some, I think, a multiplication with this, I think. A class of 18 students, the teacher asks how many students in the class have pets and finds 5/9 of the class have pets. How many students have pets is our question. And so we want to know that we're going to multiply, and we're going to multiply 5/9 times 18, or 18 over 1 in this case, because we know we want to convert it to a fraction so that we can multiply the other factor, which is a fraction, the 5/9. Okay, the first thing I might do is make an estimate. So I might look at 18, let's say 20 would be my estimate. And then I might multiply that, and I can do 20 over 1 if I want to, and multiply that times 5/9 is close to 5/10. So I'm going to convert it to 5, or 1/2. And 1/2 of 20 is about 10. Oops. About 10. So I'm going to save that, my estimate. So let's put estimate up here, or estimate for est for short. That's going to be my estimate, and I'm going to check that later. And now we're going to go and multiply our fraction. So we want to do equal to, and I want to build it into one fraction. So I'm going to go 18 times 5 for my numerator, and 1 times 9 for my denominator. and then I'm going to look for, can I simplify? Do you see anything that we can simplify? Let's look at it again. 18 times 5 times 9. It's supposed to be 9. Now I'm looking across. So I'm looking across. So I'm looking across here. And I'm looking across here. 1 and 5 I can't reduce at all, but 18 and 9, common factor between those is 9, so I can see that, so I can change, I know 9 goes into 9 one time, and 9 goes into 18 two times. Okay, so we can rewrite this, and let me move this up a little bit. Okay, and then we can move this, then we can rewrite this. I can get over there as 2 times 5 and 1 times 1, which actually that's pretty easy. Let's move this up again one more a little bit. I want to keep 10 in there if I can. Okay, and then I'm going to go 2 times 5 is 10, and 1 times 1 is 1, so it equals to 10. And then I'm going to look at my answer. So this is 10 students, I think. Oops. Students, and then I'm going to check with my estimate, which is actually a very accurate estimate. It's a very accurate estimate of 10 students, so that makes sense. Everything checks out. So you should always be checking your estimate with your final answer. And so let me reduce this and then move it up so we can see everything. What I noticed actually with the estimate is, do you see how we had 18 and I did my estimate of 20, which this went up. So my estimate went up, and then I took 5/9, which I said is about a half, and that went down, I think. So I went up on one factor and down on the other, and we got the exact estimate. So if this is the interactive file, I want you to solve this problem and the page on the next page problem. If this is just a video, then I want you to pause here and calculate this problem out, as well as the one that follows this one. Pause after you see that and calculate that on a piece of paper. Do you remember how we start? We always create one fraction. So from the two factors, so same thing here, even though we have a whole number and one fraction, we're going to convert that whole number to a fraction, and then combine them together to be one fraction. So here we have an example of a mixed number times a fraction. So we have to do something with the mixed number. So we have 3 and 3/5. So we need to convert that to an improper fraction. Okay, so to show that, so we're going to look at the 3 and 3/3, and we're going to multiply the 3 wholes and break it into 5 parts. So I'm going to rewrite the numerator for our first term. 3 times 5, 3 wholes times 5 parts. I'm going to put parentheses around that, plus 3, because we have the 3/5 still there. And I'm going to put that over 5. Oops, my 5 isn't very good. Let me erase that. That's a better 5. Times 1/3. So that's how we rewrote that. So let's put equal sign here, and we'll we'll put another equal, so 3 times 5 is 15, plus 3 is 18, so 18, and I'm going to fifths, so that converts to 18 fifths, and then I'm going to make my 1 fraction, so I'm going to end up with 18 times 1 for my numerator and 5 times 3 for my denominator. So the step that I have was to make an improper fraction. And then again I'm going to do my normal steps, which I'm going to look to see if I can simplify. So looking across, I can see 18 and 3, and I know a common factor between those two is 3. So 3 divided by 3 would be 1, and 3 goes into 18 6 times, so I'm going to put a 6 up there. And then I'm looking at the 5 and the 1, and the only common factor I see is 1, so I'm going to leave that the way it is. So to rewrite this, we're going to do 6 times 1 for the numerator, and 5 times 1 for the denominator, which will give me 6 fifths. Now that's still an improper fraction, 6 fifths, so I could write it as 1 and 1/5. Now the only other thing I noticed is I'm missing my multiplication step, so let's put multiply here. And that's how we would multiply a mixed number times a fraction. We have to break it into an improper fraction, then we look to see if we can simplify it, find any common factors, and then we would multiply. And then we would see if it's still an improper fraction, we would convert it to back to a mixed number or into a mixed number. Okay? So now it's your turn to find the product in the simplest form. Let me put these. Ooh, this didn't work very well. This up here to help. So there's our steps that you need to do. If this is a video, I want you to pause it. If this is the explain everything file, then you can write right here.